Hey everyone, Chris here with another filler episode. This time, I thought it'd be fitting to take a brief look at a modern retro game. Now, even though that sounds totally contradictory, it actually makes perfect sense when you think about it. You have modern games that are styled to feel like retro games, but they really don't play anything like a true retro game. A great example of this is Geometry Wars, which gives the impression that it's all retro with its glowing vector lines and simplistic repetitive gameplay. But let's be honest here, the game burns so much graphics power that you could never make it run on an 80s or 90s console. Heck, even the DS version of Geometry Wars has frame rate issues. But then we have this game right here, VVVVVV, or an easier way to say it would be the letter V 6 times. Aside from a very unusual title, this is a game that really could have been made on a low-end 8-bit system like a Commodore 64 or something, but it is in fact a modern game. It runs natively on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, yet it's rendered internally at a resolution of 320 by 240 using only a handful of colors. It was created by Terry Cavagnan and released on January 11th, 2010, about a year and a half ago. This is what you would call a modern retro game, playing just like an old 80s game would. And this isn't just some random game I picked. It's been picked up by hundreds of thousands of game players across the world, and it's been praised by many of the reviewers out there. Why? Well, unlike many of those old retro classics, this game is ridiculously easy to play. You only have 3 controls really: move left, move right, and flip gravity. There is no jumping, there are no weapons, and the game is all about just making it from point A to point B, dying as few times as possible along the way. Speaking as a game designer myself, there's 3 very critical reasons why this game is as good as it is, despite its simplistic nature. The first reason, the presentation and the music. And just listen to this music for a moment. And you want to know what the really crazy part is? All of the music in this game adheres to the same level of quality or higher. Yeah, the music actually gets better than this. I think there's only a single track in the entire game that doesn't hit this level of quality, and it's not even a part of the main game, so most people are never going to hear it anyways. Secondly, the story. The story in this game is laced with technobabble and is almost completely pointless, but it's presented in an extremely innocent and adventurous way, which not only makes it feel sincere, but makes you care about what happens to these little pixelated color people just that much more. One of my favorite moments in the entire game is this one right here. Actually, my most favorite moment is after beating the game and collecting all the shiny trinkets hidden around the world map, but I'm not gonna spoil that moment because if it doesn't make you laugh, then you are very dead inside. Or haven't watched enough Power Rangers. Anyways, lastly, the level design in this game is top-notch. Every section of the game provides you with new kinds of challenges to overcome that uses the gravity flipping mechanic to its maximum potential, with the final part of the game molding just about every mechanic you've faced all together into one big epic challenge. Now, for all the praise I've given this game, there are a couple downsides, the first being its length. The vast majority of retro games with a storyline and level progression can be beaten in about a half hour to 3 hours, and this game is no exception, and can be beaten by a novice player in about 2 to 3 hours, so it's not a very long game. And secondly, it is hard. It's just like an old retro game. Now don't get me wrong, the game is littered with checkpoints to ensure that if you die, you only have to go back a short distance. But you are gonna die. And die, and die, and die, and die. Very many times. I don't doubt though that there are people out there who are incredibly skilled at this thing. Heck, there's actually a mode you can unlock that basically consigns you to winning the entire game on a single life. I question the sanity of anyone who has pulled this off, because it would take numerous hours of trial and error. Well, this game may be short, but it is big, and at $5 on Steam, you definitely get a full experience out of it, regardless of your retro gaming skill. Part of the reason I wanted to talk about this too is that a new version came out just recently that added a feature that very, very few games have nowadays: a built-in level editor. You can make and play your own scripted levels with very little effort. The editor is in fact so easy to use that I managed to put together my own fully scripted, story-driven level in only 2 days worth of work. That's how easy it is to use. And that's actually the level you're seeing on screen right now, the one I made, which I dubbed Reactor Disaster, which sounds completely cliché, but it fits with the story I created. If you already own the full version, you can download this level I made from my website at www.pixelships.com from the miscellaneous stuff section. Granted, despite how easy the editor is to use, it does have a few bugs, including a crash bug, and the scripting system could use a little bit of work too. But it otherwise works perfectly fine. Those of you experiencing the crash bug, you can actually avoid it by making sure to always save your work before you press enter to test your level. As long as you do that, you should barely ever crash the thing. So that's my look at the C64 inspired letter V 6 times. Stay tuned for the next episode of Ancient DOS Games, episode 56, where I plan to review a game that's, well, it's not only another platformer with a built-in editor, but it's kind of like what you would get if you mixed Geometry Wars with the Predator franchise. Yeah, I know that's pretty obscure, but if you have any idea what games like that, then make sure you send your guess to adg@pixelships.com and tune in next Saturday to check it out.